Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Not too bad, not too bad. How's everything been? Have you been surviving? I like to ask that
Yep.
question.
This is the Northeast. It's cold.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. And too bad it's not impacting natural gas prices. So
Yeah, I know. Well, there was an article in the New York Times today that said that prices are coming up. So,
yeah,
they said something like 19%. I read it this morning, so it's too far away for me to remember.
well,
Uh,
you're like me. I can't remember what I had for lunch a couple days ago.
yeah. It's what happens when you have children. They just
That's right.
eat it out of you.
That's right. That's why I got a stack of papers over here. Waiting to get through.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
No,
Um,
it's not there. It's not there anymore. So yeah. Okay.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll just
I'll
just give it a minute here and see if more people join. But yeah,
yeah.
I guess overall, one of the things I like to check on is if people are surviving, especially when there's when there's days kind of like this where it's just like a constant sort of sell day.
Yeah.
Sometimes people can, sometimes people buy the dip too early, and I think I might have bought the dip a little early, but we'll see. So
Yeah. I mean, the SPXL that was bought this morning is what? Minus 1.8%, minus 1.9. So I mean it's nothing. So yeah.
yeah, it's
I
not too
mean,
bad.
we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, it's only yeah, you're right. I'm just looking at the sheet now. It's only a couple $100, but and that's for 2 units, so it's 20,000
Yeah.
up front there. It's not too bad. I thought it was going to be
Yeah.
a little bit worse than that, but there was some recovery. I mean, I kind of bought it like that first sort of consolidation zone, so
Yeah.
kind of thinking maybe there'll be a bit of a bounce here tonight. I kind of see, and I'll talk about this here in a second once we get rolling, but I see like a inverted sort of head and shoulders. And even
Yeah.
if it doesn't go much further, I kind of actually expect there to be a little bit of a test of the low again tonight. And if that doesn't happen, it's kind of like two situations. So I'll I'll kind of wait to kind of go through that. But overall, it's like just while we're getting kicked off here,
Yeah.
there's two situations, and one's kind of like it springs up right away overnight. We get like a, let's say, almost like a 0.5% sort of retrace,
Yeah.
um, that kind of thing overnight, and then maybe they sell it in the morning, or they'll sell it at night to kind of complete that pattern, and then
Yeah.
those will buy it up all for the rest of the night, that kind of thing. So it's kind of like an if or then.
Well,
All
it's
right.
OPEX on Friday also, right? It's OPEX. So until
Yeah.
next week, we won't really know.
Yeah, and with OPEX on Friday, then naturally, like, price kind of gravitates a little upwards. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking maybe like the CPI data might be like a sell the rumor, buy the news sort of thing. Like if it comes in
Yeah.
flat or something, or it comes in a little under, that kind of thing. That'll be a bullish catalyst for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
It feels like everybody's on a cliffhanger with that one. So,
yeah, yeah, right. So I think for now, like, I am positioned like very, very light long, I guess. I guess
yeah.
you could say, like, just in case it kind of craters again. And there's a reason for that. Like, I don't want to go whole hog long, but you can see some buying and stuff. So I kind of feel like there's a bit of a sort of an expectation that there's going to be a bounce here, and there should. And
Yeah.
I'll talk through that here in a second. Let me just pull up my.
I mean, for the most part, I'm not long. I've been selling for the past week or so.
Okay.
I mean, I have some shorts. I have some stranded shorts, but that's about it. So I'm thinking
Okay. Well,
about
yeah.
my
As long as
tax
you're not.
liability. Yeah,
Oh, I see. Yeah. As long as you're not trapped like me, trapped like a rat.
I am. I
Oh.
am. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's like I knew the risk, I took it. And but I think it's time to, just basically think about my taxes this year and next year. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and sometimes, yeah, I think there was a good question in chat today about, of course, I can't give tax advice. That's a big no-no.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, what I can say though is, if you are going to do something like that to like offset some other gains,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, people do it. Me personally, like, I have like a 401k account that I do the majority of this trading stuff in there, so it's sort of like a tax shelter
Yeah.
until
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 you
it
cash.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, for example, last year, the shorts that I was, or wait, no, it was April. But I carry those shorts from the year before. But then when I
Yeah.
cashed them out, I still had a profit. So it was like once it was realized, then it still counts for this year, but
Yeah.
it's still the same security. So like I won't have to deal with any wash sales or any of that stuff. So it's well, maybe we can have a tax conversation the next webinar. I'm sure people will
Yeah.
be very interested. All right.
Yeah, I had a very good year last year, so I'm
Good.
not worried. Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's the bad years we got to watch out for.
Yeah. This one
But you
has
know what?
been complicated.
It's been a tough year. Yeah, it has. It
You're
has.
right.
I know you guys are some of you guys are struggling a lot with it. I mean, I am too. It's like, here I am. I'm trying to say, this, that, and the other thing. And like, here's my bleeding portfolio. Sorry. You're like, I do know how to do this sometimes. You're like, so
C'est
yeah,
la vie.
some people see the humor, and the other people are just upset because
Yeah.
they're losing money and stuff. But as you know, like just with patience, right? Like sometimes, well, I mean, the vast majority of the time, the pendulum swings back and forth. So hey, Jake.
Yeah.
And
TJ.
it is, yeah. I mean, like, that the pendulum swings back and forth where either you're net long or net short, and like you get trapped for a while, and then as long as you have enough time, like with just shares, it should be fine. Unless there's like a major cataclysm, where I was reading what Alex was typing in the inner circle a couple days ago about how one of those leveraged ETFs blew up. That was like a volatility one. I think it was like Granite shares or something like that. I mean, it's some of that's a little scary, but I think like some of the larger inverse funds like that have a lot of liquidity. So things like SPXS or like SQQQ, those have some more liquidity to them, and also like you're not going to get like a market, like an entire index sell off of like 33%, right? So if it's 3x leverage, you're toast. But to have something like that, you'll have circuit breakers and all sorts of stuff like that. It's the individual stocks, I think, that have a lot more risk, like MSTR, right?
Correct.
So anyways, I digress. So is there anything you guys wanted to talk about specifically tonight? I'll take some notes here, or else I'll just kind of go through the regular spiel here.
I don't have any real specific notes, so
okay.
Yeah.
All right, 1 second here. I want to. I was going to share a video earlier today about some live trading losses, like people doing day trades and streaming and stuff. But I didn't get through it. I ended up being too busy for it. But maybe I'll share it tomorrow. I think it's pretty funny though. Anyways, okay, so let's get rolling here. So I didn't change any of the lines from the last Wednesday when we met. And
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
There's a ton of positive gamma on QQQ for 585, and I'm getting a bit freaked out. I think I thought we hit 600, and that was going to be it.
600. That's 600 for the day, right? Yeah, the 600.29.
Yeah, for tomorrow it's 585.
So kind of what I'm thinking.
Friday.
Kind of what I'm thinking here is what we might see is so like OPEX is on Friday, and we typically have like a gravitation like upwards for OPEX, but when you hit the put wall, I think like you'll have to look and see what the levels are tomorrow morning. So like in pre-market, like Spot Gamma publishes those prices and stuff, but so like if the put wall ends up changing to like 585, then yeah, I mean, hedging is probably a good sort of thing, because once we get the CPI data, like even though I kind of think it might be a sell the rumor, buy the news sort of situation, I still kind of you never really want to put all those eggs in the basket there. But I do think here that if you're looking at just like a normal sort of fib retracement here from peak to trough, we could head a little bit lower, so like maybe a lower low tonight possibly. Those guys do that sometimes, where like for example here, let me pull this up. So for example, you can see, I mean, to me this is a pretty clear like 5-wave sort of structure here. Then you can also see like I kind of feel like we will have something that looks like this, because we have you can see just kind of like a 5-wave in there, but the 5-wave can extend. We also could see, I mean, this trend line's been pretty reliable today. We could see something, like this, where we just have another kind of plunge down, But then I think maybe we'll see some sort of support develop overnight if that happens. But for your concern, yeah, it's absolutely very valid. I don't want to discount that, but I think we're not really going to know much about it until tomorrow morning, where we see like some of the different gamma levels and stuff for the day as some of those trades and stuff roll in. Hopefully, that's an acceptable sort of answer. Another thing here you can see. So this kind of looks like the final sort of wave 5. For those of you guys who aren't like charting super nerds like me, I guess the easiest way to put it is there's a certain sort of pattern here. It's called like a double zigzag or whatever. And at the moment, it really just means that there's ABCs that are within this. And I mean, there's pretty clearly you can see that there's these ABCs here. So all these together here, let me add some contrast here. I know when people watch this after hours here, I want to just make sure I'm clear. Got some feedback, just rambling on. So yeah, I know, I'm sorry. So here we go. This sort of structure, I feel like is kind of completed or got close. Or like I feel like now there was a lot of selling today, but there's also been a lot of accumulation as the days kind of marched along here. And you also got to think too that there's been a lot of buyers that were trapped. As we tested this sort of these the blue one here. This is the 21-day moving average, and the 50 is this purple one. So long story short here, this is kind of like a bull channel, I guess you could say. Like the lines are pretty solid. So as long as it stays kind of within the confines of that, I think probably best case scenario, and I think I showed this slide later on in the night. Let's say we get another lower low tonight. Best case scenario is we see some sort of run like this, like into Friday, like OPEX, which I think is it's realistic. We could probably see another test of the 50, maybe this last sort of high before we had the other ABC down. And that's typically what you see with those types of patterns. But again, nothing is for certain. So just want to be clear with that, where you could have a big dump day tomorrow, and we could see a large extension. And how I'll draw that out here is I'm going to try not to jump around too much with it, but at the moment, like the day ended right here at this ABC, or sorry, the A equals C, this 100% extension here. And I would say, like, worst case scenario, if it is going to still be an ABC, is you'll see like another one of these guys, I think, where you might get some sort of retracement overnight or something, and then you see it sell off in the morning, and then you could see maybe an extension down a little bit more. But overall, if it still stays kind of within the confines of this sort of channel, I guess it's only a matter of time before it kind of breaks through the channel at the upside, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of looking at these bigger. Let me take it up a time frame here, because this pattern here, this looks like a pretty scary sort of head and shoulders pattern. So typically, with these sort of patterns, like the neckline for this, I think is actually a little bit farther down than where most people realize. So I do think that it's possible you could see a visit down to this like 0.886 level. But without scaring the crap out of everybody here, let me just kind of draw and say why. So typically with these sort of like head and shoulders patterns, and this is sort of like a proxy for like the S&P, right? So it's kind of like the same sort of view. And I just realized, sorry, I was doing this on Nasdaq, the futures, but it's same sort of concept. Okay, so again, today, we ended here at this 0.618 retracement level. I think that's a really good sort of like a really good level to think about it, because there's a volume shelf down here. There's a lot of buying right around here, so there should be some sort of support. But again, I do think that we'll have another little test here overnight of the lows, and really kind of depends on volume. So if we see like a jump like this, I would not stay at this level. It's like if you get this relief rally, that's sort of like your your signal to close your open longs, because you might not get another chance. Because what you could see after this, because these longer term patterns, they really do seem to match up, like from a symmetry standpoint. You could see something where it still keeps in form, where you've got this this larger ABC sort of thing. So you've got this dip, let's say, that happens overnight, and
You're scaring
bulls.
the shit out of me, man.
I'm sorry.
I just went long today. I'm like, oh God.
Sorry. So yeah, so I'm not trying to scare anybody to death here, but the reality is, like, this is a very, the pattern here is just screaming to me bearish. I mean, you've got all the sell delta up here. You've got some buyers trapped right up at the top, but that's just people thinking that market's going to continue to shoot up to space. So there's still some trap buyers. So there's going to be some sort of defense. So I would say
I can't argue with the gamma either. Like I'm looking at it, and it's 660 on SPY, huge amount of it for Friday.
Yeah. So they're going to want to try to pull that up. So I think what's happening today, or not just like today, but like the entire last couple days, is I think it's sellers that are trying to force buyers to flip short, to try to like create that liquidity. So the market makers and stuff. I was talking about today, 6,800 is like the battle zone. Well, it ended up breaking, but that's just because the gamma was stacked a little bit higher from the from the put side. And now since that we actually had that that downdraft today, now I think that was kind of like the last leg for now. And you might get some sort of relief here where the seller is going to continue to sell into that. And I think that even if we get just a little bit of relief, where even we cover half of the ground here that was lost today, I still think that would be a good good sort of B wave to, like, assess, like, strength of the volume, strength of price action, and some of the I know you guys can't watch this stuff like all day every day. People have jobs, people got stuff to do, but what I will say is that this this sort of 25,000 zone is pretty significant for Nasdaq. And also I'd say, like, if you're looking at the S&P, it's like that 60, like 6750, 6800, that sort of level. That's sort of like your point of control for the whole range. But yeah, I do think that I mean, we've had really like 9 months or 8 months worth of just up, right? And so now it's people can't really remember what a correction feels like to trade. So, but this is some of the stuff that I really like to try to analyze, just because there's lots of little nuance that a lot of people, I think, a lot of people just click the buy button when there's a dip, but there's a little bit more of a art and science to like corrective patterns. So that's where I try to try to focus, because buying the dip is easy, but figuring out when to buy the dip, that's the hardest part. You can get lucky in an uptrend, but if you're on the cusp of changing from an uptrend to a downtrend, that's where you really don't want to get trapped. So actually, I think that these sort of patterns are really the most dangerous right around here, where like we could have, sure, in a bullish scenario, I think Mr. Nelson shared this yesterday, but in a bullish scenario, you could see this sort of pattern up into space here, and that could be like another 5 wave sort of thing, but that would take us into, highly likely, it'll take us into like summer of next year, or like late spring, that kind of thing, if you were actually see like a long wave 3 and higher prices and stuff like that. But you'd have to have really good news. Right now, you're still seeing a drag in the economy. You're seeing higher unemployment. You're seeing the Fed pivot to a more defensive sort of strategy with like lowering rates and stuff, and that's not really good. Like, you don't want to, like, the Fed raising rates to try to temper enthusiasm, like that's a little bit more more realistic when you got a crazy market. But now that they're cutting rates and stuff, they must see something coming, in the data on the horizon here. So long story short, I guess I would say is that I do think that we will see this sort of ABC sort of pattern, but I do think that there will be some sort of 50% retrace and possibly even a 61.8% retrace. And if I measure that, and I'm going to try hard not to focus on the on only the bear, but what's kind of funny with these sort of patterns is that once you get once the first leg is done, and then you get this final, or you get this B wave rollover, which is what we've seen. And I think Jake, actually, you called it a couple of days ago. Well, we've had three attempts at a high, and now we had the fourth that just kind of barely missed, and then it got sold down right after that. So, in my opinion, this is the first sort of leg down. And it's not really a setup, like a bullish setup. I really do think this looks bearish overall. I mean, this is, it's a pretty clear head and shoulders. The right shoulder had 4 attempts at a new high that got sold down right away. Plus, we have a weekly indicator of, or like a weekly sell indicator. So it's really just buyer exhaustion at this point. That's, I think, driving a lot of this. Plus, you got to think that these guys don't have a ton of inventory left after they've just been, we didn't spend a lot of time at the April lows. We spent an hour at the lows, and we didn't really have an accumulation phase of a week or two like we typically would have. So I think that there's been a lot of dumping of shares and things. You can kind of see up here a lot of the concentration of red, where we had the same sort of let the bulls buy it up, then they sell it down, back and forth, this sort of whipsaw stuff. And I think we've actually been pretty on top of this pattern, except for how long it took for this B wave to kind of materialize. And you never really know if it's going to stop, right? So, but now we know it's stopping, and now we've got that big downdraft. So the only question I really have now is, where's this A leg gonna, or where's this first leg gonna stop? So Jake, I don't want you to jump off a bridge. So let's take it step by step. So I think probably what you could see here, the extent of some sort of A leg sort of move. I would say sometimes you get the A leg that's similar to the first one down. So we had what, 6.3%. Yeah, I bet you this takes us really close to. Yeah. Okay. So if we did have some sort of mirror of the first A leg down, which is it's not a guarantee. You could see something. Let me get this out of the way. You could see something where you find support at this at this trend line, right? And that would probably freak a lot of people out. You probably have that capitulation there. But there's one other scenario here that I think is probably going to be the correct one. So I got something flying around my face. So what we saw here was still this, talking about that double zigzag sort of pattern. Well, you could see something like this, and that would be a equals C. One second. But if we zoom in, where I think that I think people are going to get caught here is where, if we do see something like this, where we get this test of this 0.886 sort of retracement, which aligns very well with this neckline, or this longer term neckline. Excuse me, longer term neckline. I can't talk today. I think that probably what you'll see here is maybe you'll see a smaller sort of ABC with an extended. Oops. Let me change the color too. So this is kind of what I'm thinking here for. Let's just make it yellow. It's kind of what I'm thinking for what we would see here. So this kind of looks yeah. I always think about it what do the bears want to do to trick the bulls into buying, and what do the bulls want to do to trick the bears into capitulating? Or they just drive it up. That's their one trick. But bears have a lot more tricks up their sleeve, because bulls get shaken out a lot faster than the bears do. bears are professionals at getting their asses kicked on a daily basis until they don't. So there's one sort of pattern here that I think you could see, and I think that a lot of people will mistake this as like a B wave bottom or like a wave 2 bottom. If we do see this sort of high like B wave shoulder here, like this sort of zone right here, I think is going to be pretty important. And I think this is probably where the next short opportunity is going to be. Again, depending on volume, depending on what happens here. Like for example, if we saw this move up here in what, like a day and a half, maybe 2 days, something like that, kind of started, where it ended, that night, and then they just started buying. Then we had 1 day of, a lot of consolidation and stuff. But I think that you could see a retrace like this, and that's like a reversal pattern. So if I'm a bull, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to buy here. It's going to be great. And that's, yeah, no problem, Jake. Thanks. Appreciate you joining. But yeah, I think that this is probably going to be, what we see here, just because, looking at this longer term, I think, you guys have been through enough of these things now to know that, like these sort of patterns longer term, they end up materializing, and the things sell down a little bit faster, that are a little bit more than you would expect, right? And this should technically be a C leg down. So if this is a C leg down, it's going to be fast. So that's kind of my assessment on the matter. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So
right.
that's yeah. So if everybody's going to freak out about it, that's hopefully not. But let me take a screenshot of this. So I want to make sure that I can do the proper levels and stuff. I'm just kind of freehanding it right now. So
yeah.
Oops. Okay. So after all that, now let's talk about. Let me kind of back out of this. Let me talk about some sort of bullish setup here, because I don't want to just talk about nothing but bear. So right now, I'll draw that channel again here. I think that it's yes. Go ahead.
That whole round pattern at the top of it, that is never really very good news, is it?
No, rounded tops are not good.
It's like exhaustion, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. And you can see that up here too. Like yeah, there's a lot of buy delta up here where technically that is accumulation, but when you look at the larger sort of pattern here, like again, we've got this weekly this weekly buyer exhaustion signal. And when you look at some of these things, like we had a weekly one a while back here, like in September, and even though we only saw just a little bit of a drawdown, a couple days later, we ended up seeing this big old drop, and you can kind of see that it's been like a tough slog ever since then. Like we had this gap and whatever, but it's been sold down.
It doesn't look pretty. The whole thing doesn't look good.
Yeah, right. It doesn't look constructive, I think that's
exactly.
Yeah. So so just kind of looking at this, there is a this pattern here. Sorry, let me draw this just for the people watching at home here. So technically, yes, you do get some sort of like cup and handle pattern with this. And that was really the bullish scenario that I was going to talk about here, is that like short term, I do not think like this is a good setup for like a much longer rally, if that makes sense. Like we rallied for 9 months or 8 months without taking a breath of air, and now that we've got a little bit of selling here, people are a little bit afraid to short, and that's kind of a good thing, because the VIX is very, very low, and people that can kind of see this and think like, this doesn't really look good. Maybe taking some 90-day puts or something like that isn't such a bad idea when the VIX is so low. And also just a note for those like holding UVIX and feeling like you're kind of crushed under it. This is like, I kind of feel like this is the calm before the storm. Like you'll see like a huge jump in volatility if we have like a wave 3 kind of day where we're down, let's say 3% or 3.5%. Like you'll see VIX jump 25%, and you'll see the forward contract jump 20%. if you have 2 of those days in a row, and if you actually get like a good 20%er sort of correction, like you'll get it. You've actually probably shoot up to 25, maybe 30 if you're lucky. But
Yeah.
all right, so back to the main program here. So my opinion, I do think that when you do see these cup and handles, it's not very often you see a breakdown of the sort of pattern. And what I mean by breakdown is like typically, you'll see some sort of cup and handle pattern like this, and you can just see it like continue. Some people say it's a bullish pattern, and that very well be the case. But again, like we just talked about the diamond shape pattern, which is a reversal pattern. This also looks like a reversal pattern. So if I'm a bear and I'm trying to unload all my shares, I don't want to dump it all right away, right? Because if I dump it all right away, then that moves the market in a big way. That scares everybody away from buying, and there's a lot of systemic risk there. So if you want to keep playing the game and sell, sell higher, you want to continue to just take your foot off the gas just when you need to, and that's what I think these guys are doing right now, where you might see this sort of the bear scenario I talked about. I think you could see something like this, but it's probably going to be more like another ABC sort of down. But since we're in the bullish sort of view, I think you could see something like this as a B wave. So then overall, what that would mean is like a breakdown here, where I think this is actually pretty realistic. I mean, the bulls got a lot of work to do ahead of them here, but this might also coincide with. I mean, you can kind of see like before that other B wave, that pretty clear head and shoulders there. I think we actually called that one pretty well, but that's also you can kind of see 5 waves down there. I'm kind of thinking we might actually this might not just be like an ABC sort of thing. I think we might actually see something more like this is too early to call. Okay, like I know that, but I think there is a significant possibility that this is like a wave 2 of a much larger sort of thing, just like a slow precipitous decline, where you could get this. I'll zoom out here. And this is where people are going to scoff at it and be like, that's no way, it's bull market, no way. And then it happens. I mean, it happened in 2022 or 23 or whatever that year was that we dropped 30-some%. I mean, it happens, and I think people have forgotten what it's like to have a sell-off, and that's common. We've been bull for so long that the sell-off that we had back in April was fast and fierce.
Yes,
but it was also an ABC, which now we can kind of see that this looks like a very clear, like 5 wave up sort of structure. So now the backside of it is going to be, it's going to be like a ABC down. So you could see, 2026 could be a crappy year. We just don't know. I mean, you could see something like this over time, but realistically, even if we have something like that, if you go out to the day level, I mean, it's still not lower than April. I mean, you've got good support right down here. You're going to have little jumps like this, and that's really not that much of a correction, to be honest. It kind of takes us. Let's say we get some support over here. Realistically, you could have some sort of like megaphone pattern, like longer term here, that could be good support, and you might have people freak out, but still, I think it's realistic. And I think what we'll also see is that the clue for this is going to be whether we see these 5 waves down or not. So the first ABC down here is not really like, it doesn't really tell us much. It tells us that you start out with, there's going to be another ABC later. So if it is something like this, okay, sure. And then you see it bounces off the 200, and then everybody's happy for a couple months, and then we just rally again. That's true. It could be a very shallow correction. I can't deny that. I mean, it's still been very bullish. People are, they got their bags of money out ready to buy. But I think what's a little bit different this time is like crypto has sold off a lot, and you're starting to see those typical stores of value that are overvalued, like gold. Yeah, longer term, sure, I could see that, but like people don't all just throw their money in the markets lately. Like it's distributed. Like it's crypto now. It's we have ETFs. We have all these other things that are like based on these leveraged instruments, and I think that there's a big risk there where we have just a different kind of structure than we did a couple of years ago, where the entire market now is dominated by zero DTE, stuff throughout the day. But then when there's a big shock, then everything dumps like quickly. So I mean, we haven't really gotten to that yet, except for April was a bit of a scary situation. I mean, profitable, but still a scary situation if you don't really like you haven't been through one of those before. But now that you guys are all experts, right? I know you're an expert.
Sure. Yeah.
What was that? Sorry.
No, nothing.
I know you're an expert. Pirate. All right.
I am. And every day I'm a bigger expert than the previous day. So
excellent. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. There's no turning back.
That's right. So realistically, like I don't want to keep drawing on about it. I think that like the message here is things aren't as good as they seem on paper. And I think that a lot of people, like a lot of the deep pocket people, have been selling for a while. And I mean, you can kind of see it with the a little bit more of like overwhelming red than blue, right? So if you kind of look at prior legs up, right, you can see just a lot of blue, a little bit of selling, but once you start to get a little bit more spiky like this, then you can kind of tell that people are selling into strength and trying to keep a lid on things. And they also know that an exuberant market is kind of like it's good and bad for business. Like if you go too far up, then you get a massive bubble, and then you have a big wipeout. And if you can't forecast it correctly, you get wiped out, and everybody else does, and then everybody gets scared and doesn't want to participate in the market again. I mean, it was the same thing with like 2008, 2009, where people lost 40% of their 401ks, and they're looking at it like, oh, I don't know if I want to, go through that again. It takes a while for people to get to shake off the heebie-jeebies of a bad market. There's really no other term I have for it other than heebie-jeebies. So anyways, to summarize here, there is a bullish scenario that could start tonight, tomorrow, that kind of thing. Who knows what's going to happen with CPI tomorrow? Like I said before, it's kind of honestly like you could flip a coin right now. I think that this is a very like sort of pivotal part in the chart, where it's either like it's just a bifurcation zone. Like either we sell further down to test this trend line, or we continue up and make some sort of cup and handle pattern, or we have a diamond reversal, that kind of thing. Kind of like I showed here. So I think the easiest way to play it is to not play it at all. I mean, yes, I did take out some longs, but it's just for some action for the troops. I haven't gone along in like forever, but I think it'll be a very short-term sort of thing. And if we do end up making this sort of dip down like this, I will buy some more and I will improve my cost basis for sure.
Right.
So, because there's gonna be a rally at some point, whether that happens now or later. But the long story short about it though is like I just want to make sure that people understand that I still get the creeps about this chart pattern here, and I don't want to be stuck holding longs. I waited so long to do this that I don't want to be stuck at the top too. So because that's even worse than getting stuck short. At least I think it's like, because you never know if it's going to be like the top for a year or like two, and
or
if you're
three,
holding these things around, or three, and you're holding it underwater, and it's like, I mean, after what 1929 took 20 years for markets to get back to stable at least, you're at least like recover a lot of the ground that was lost. So I mean, you don't want to you'd be holding like TQQQ like back in April. I feel bad for the people who were, because it went from like, was it like 123 a share down to like 60 or less, or 45 or whatever it was. It was not good. And that was quick. It was really, really quick. So now,
there's nowhere to hide once it goes that way.
That's right. That's right. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to feather in like just a hedge in general. So what I wanted to do all summer long was do that where, let's say we saw like a drop, but these drops were so fast, and furious that it's like I kind of wanted to wait and see what happened before I jumped in to go long. And then of course, they just got bought up right away. We all know what the story is, but like in the moment, you're kind of like, wait, this actually might drop a little bit more than this. And usually it just has to do with the intensity. But I think that the dip buying has been so strong that, eventually, there's exhaustion there. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing, is that people are ready for lower prices. They want to buy lower rather than just like 2% lower. They want to buy 20% lower. And they want to go through those whole, market cycles again. But, and also too, the one last thing I wanted to say about this, just in general, is that when you do have this sort of, confluence of, the 50 and the 21-day moving averages, and they all kind of converge, and then it gets rejected from that in a strong way. To me, that is a very clear signal that it's time to bail. Time to bail on your longs. But yeah, so anyways, like, I don't want to drone on about it, but yeah, it just doesn't really look like a healthy pattern to me. And I think that today is probably the weirdest day of the week, because there could be, could go up, could go down, of course. But there's been enough days where it's been down enough where you should see some sort of relief rally. We've got enough people trapped there. I think they'll deploy some capital and move some markets. But we'll see tomorrow. I'll give an update on the options, kind of like how the gamma levels and stuff are framed. But longer term, I think that any long trade, is probably going to be like, make sure you set some stops, hedges, whatever you got to do, as long as you can neutralize a trapped long position, because you never really know what's going to happen. Like if we're actually going to continue to sell through, we just have to see. So that's why I kind of think this is a very dangerous sort of time here for the market, like right in this section. Okay. Any questions about equities?
Nope. I'm good. This is great.
Awesome.
Where do you see gold going?
Gold. Good question.
No, and really, well, actually, the rate, yeah.
Yeah. So so with the
That's
webinar,
exactly.
I just want to make sure I cover all the pieces.
Yeah.
Just for the for the folks watching after this. So the yield itself, I think, is bottoming. I think we got a nice little like inverted head and shoulders here. And I mean, the bond traders know what's up. Sure, we do have this sort of death cross thing, but do you see, like, gut feeling? Do you see, do you see rates going down? I don't. I mean, even if the long end of the curve is accelerating as well, I mean, it doesn't matter if the Fed cuts or not. Like, the 30-year yield is responding higher, and that's not a good position to be in, especially if you owe people money. Like the government. Well, they'll just put more. So I do think that, yes, we will have, like, even if this is just a little quick, like, wave 4 sort of thing. So just to kind of like back it up here, even if we do see like another lower low, I think it'll be very brief. Like, for example, if we see something sub 4%, I don't think it's going to last long. Like, even if it hit like 3.8 or something like that, I think it's going to jump up pretty quickly after that. Kind of like we saw like back in October 24, where you see this, kind of big jump higher. It's been consolidating enough for, I mean, man, since the beginning of September. So there's all that consolidation. There's a lot of buying, a lot of selling, whatever. But yeah, I think the people who trade rates and stuff are pretty savvy on this stuff. Okay, so that's so I think, yes, we will eventually kind of correct this sort of death cross here, and we'll cross over the 200 and probably keep going up to test, or I'll probably keep going up. I don't really know how high it might go. Probably, I want to say, I always kind of get this gut feel like 5.3 is like the place we're going here, because this is we never really actually take a look at this. There's in my opinion, there's a pretty clear like wave 4 here, and it just looks like I think I got my count wrong here, but this triangle looks either like a bull flag or a wave 4 consolidation pattern. So eventually, I think we are going to see this sort of like play out here, but there's just a lot of accumulation down here. So if you have TLT, probably not a good idea to hold on to it. Even though the dividend's probably going to be double in like 3 years, it's still probably not a good place to be. And that would crush a lot of pensions and stuff too. So, that's not a good spot to be in. So we'll talk about that later. That's more of like macro econ sort of stuff for yields and whatnot. But so flipping to gold, I think what that'll do for gold is that'll give it another tailwind. Now I know that. Let's look at this on the higher level. So I actually think silver is the one that's been kind of like the leading metal here. If you look at it, it took forever to break out. Like in summer, we had this consolidation zone, but you still just see a monster run here after this breakout above 40 or whatever it was. Now we got this, now I got this run higher. And when gold dumped, that's when it was at like 54, something like that. And gold still really hasn't made a higher high since then. So either silver's catching up to where gold is from an overvalued perspective, but I shouldn't say overvalued. I do think it is kind of overvalued, but still, like, where else are you going to put your money if you don't want to do crypto and you don't want to buy bonds that are going to depreciate? You're going to buy metals or you're going to buy commodities. So that's why I'm actually like stunned that oil and natural gas and stuff haven't rebounded, just because where else are people putting their money? They're putting them in semiconductors or they're buying AI stuff. But yeah, I think if that balloon kind of deflates, you're going to see a lot more. And they're going to see a lot more of this buying of metals and stuff. So yeah, I mean, if we do get a pullback or something like that, I'll probably get add some GLD longs or something like that. Silver is just insane though. So, anyways, did I answer your question about gold, or you have any other questions? Okay, great.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, this now kind of looks like a wave 3 up. It looks a little strong, but it looks like there's a lot of distribution. But if it doesn't roll over right around here, like at this A equals C sort of thing, maybe it makes it irregular. Who knows? But it's still too early to tell. But I wouldn't short metals. It's just not a good idea until it's like clear that it's selling off. All right, real quick on oil. I mean, as we've talked about before, I think that there's been enough consolidation here. Again, we got a weekly buy signal, and I don't think this ABC is done yet. I think Tim in discussion nailed it the other day. With heading down here, it could go as low even as like 52. So if you have like lots of oil longs or whatever, it might be good to add some shorts, whatever, on a retrace. But I think that the negotiations with the Ukraine and Russia are really driving like the price down. But I mean, you got a ton of these buy signals everywhere, these weekly buy signals, and you still don't have the the ascent that we did like when Iran got bombed for 2 days. I mean, it jumped huge, and now it's just been depressed ever since. Like it went right back to that jump off point. So that's why I'm not really too worried about it, because you can't. I mean, they're not going to give it away for free, And this is a really, really long consolidation pattern. And I think that yes, okay, if you do have bad, like a bad economy, something like that, oil's gonna decline in value. But just getting people drive less gasoline demand. However, they're not going to give it away. So anything below like $50 a barrel, I think, is ridiculous. Just the cost to produce it in the United States, like oil being below $50 a barrel, is significantly unprofitable for American companies and stuff. So if we are keeping our foot on price just through market means or whatever, in order to influence negotiations or whatever, we're going to be shooting ourselves in the foot here if we continue to do it. So maybe, who knows? I mean, I know I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy or anything, but I do believe that that markets are used for leverage for negotiations for sure, especially if you have a lot of your budget that's dependent upon a commodity export. We see it all the time with some of these smaller countries. It's called the strong arm. Okay, so looking at wow, gas had a good day here. yeah, I mean, I see declining volume with this, and I just think it's I think it's like a shakeout kind of thing. Like we had a lot of buying up here, and like somebody got trapped up here who put in a big buy, and they're probably not very happy with it, so they want to go back and go get it. So I think we will see this sort of pattern develop, like this sort of consolidation pattern. We may see like a lower low, but probably won't even see that until like late, like summer of next year or something like that. But for now, I think gas is going to be bullish. I mean, we had a terrible September, like one of the worst Septembers ever for gas price appreciation. And like you're saying, it's cold over there, so it's going to continue to be cold. And we'll have to see like how the gas inventory is being reported. But to me, this looks like a pretty it's pretty easy ABC. And I think that if we continue this ascent here, like this little C leg, we could probably even hit like 6.124. Not accounting for contract rolls, but that would be a nice long trade for Boyle. Any questions about that?
No.
All right. So I'll move on to SOX real quick. So SOX is getting roughed up here. So we've got kind of what looks like a ABC down. I don't think it's at the low yet, which is also kind of a little concerning because, if we do see something like this, that means that indexes have a little bit farther to fall. And this actually looks like kind of a short C leg. So I actually kind of think that you might see something like this. But we also have that bullish sort of intermission, I guess you could say. So in theory, let's say we see another little low in the morning or whatever, you could have a longer term sort of ABC down like this. I think that's realistic. I mean, you could even see a little bit higher of a B wave like this, and then see a truncation here, like for like an inverted head and shoulders or something like that. It also kind of looks like a heart pattern almost. Like, it's kind of weird. It's like you got this like sort of inverted sort of view, but it's also kind of like a double top. So we'll see. Nvidia Nvidia is following the script here pretty well. I do think that they have I think that we're headed here for this 165, if not tested this 200. And I do think that like some of these individual stocks that were hot are gonna bottom first. And I know it's just kind of weird, like how they keep the markets, or like how they keep indexes propped up, but they're selling like the big names, like the big market cap ones. And it's just kind of weird. It's like some people call it sector rotation, some people just call it rotation in general, but I don't know. It's a weird math thing. So I don't like to read into it too much. Okay, so let's look at Bitcoin here. Bitcoin. I do think Bitcoin's got another lower low here. And I think part of the reason is because, well, actually, I think it's going to be a little bit lower than that, but I think, MicroStrategy is in trouble just because you probably got some actors here trying to force them out of their Bitcoin position and sell at a loss. Because I think their net like average cost is like 74,000 or something like that. And they've indicated that they will sell in order to fill some holes in their balance sheet in order to do that. But the other thing that's been a little bit weird about it is that they've taken out loans to buy the Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin falls below the value of the loans, that they could force some liquidation there. So I think that's probably that's a big problem for Saylor and the gang. So MSTR here, I think that you've got a little bit of accumulation going on here. You've also got some big buys. I think that you've seen enough volume here where this is just like the final capitulation move down. I think that you've got a really, really big ABC sort of correction here. I mean, they've lost a significant amount of value. I think that floor would be around like 100 or something like that. But it really kind of depends at this point on Bitcoin, because they're not really trading at a premium anymore. They're trading really along the lines of what their underlying asset value is. So there's look out for more information on that. But yeah, you can just short the crap out of it. I mean, it's a little bit of a tough stock to trade, but at this point, I think we're low enough now where, something down to 150 or 142, that kind of thing. I might even add, who knows, but you're getting down to this consolidation zone here, and I think there is a lot of buying, so you will see some sort of flip. There's a weekly buy signal here. Last but not least, Tesla. Tesla made a higher high. I think that's probably it. Because now this is not really like an ABC anymore. It's like you got this like 5-wave up sort of move here. Now that we've got a top, now it can drop like a rock. So I mean, yeah, there's some selling, but it's not like punishing selling like we had like up here, like with this wait for. But yeah, I mean, now that we've got this new high here, I think that's probably it. I think we can actually stick a pin in this one, at least for the ascent. All right. Any any questions, comments, concerns? Anything I didn't cover? You wanted me to cover?
Nope. I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
I guess good luck tomorrow, and I hope people are positioned well, or they got some protection in order. And yeah, thanks for joining, and yeah, send me a DM or send something in discussion if you got any questions.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. See ya. Bye.